on. You said you're
So-
against torturing animals, right? You said you're
Yep.
okay. So what about hot iron?
People who torture animals are bad people, evil
Okay,
people even.
so branding animals with hot irons, is that torture?
I'm against that.
You're against
Yes,
that
it is.
because they do that in animal agriculture. You're aware of that?
It's not. Well, yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It's a
I
common
just want to clear
practice.
something up about.
It's a
I
common
don't think it's
practice,
even a
and
common practice.
it is, and it's without anesthesia or.
I don't think it is.
Okay, you know what? I'll go through the list, and it is a common practice: castration, debeaking,
Castration, I believe that is, but I wouldn't support that.
Detailing.
You
I
support
can
it.
chip in here.
What are
if
you
wanna
talking
know
about?
What
Yes,
goes on?
Chris, get it.
Yeah, okay, dude. Just to give you, just so you know who I am.
yes.
So, hi, by the way.
Nice to meet you, by the way, Chris.
Yeah, you too, man. So I run an animal rights organization. I go to factory farms, slaughterhouses. I see all the stuff that animals go through firsthand.
I would probably literally support you there.
Cool, thank you. So just kind of starting off, which I think is always a kind of interesting place to start, is let's start with dairy. How much do you actually know about the dairy industry and how it operates?
I know that cows are forcefully impregnated so that they produce milk, because obviously cows are regular mammals. They're not just producing milk for no reason. Babies are taken away from them at a very young age because they don't want them drinking the milk. They might also harm the mothers, become stressed, so they might harm the baby by accident. They very often don't see their mothers again, and this repeatedly happens in a cycle until about 4 years, and then normally after 4 years, they're sold to the meat industry to be killed.
Okay, great. So
they're not as productive in milk.
So, do you think that's ethical?
No, not in that way. No.
So, do you consume dairy?
It depends. I think because I try to get my dairy from the best place I can.
No, but what you've just explained is the standard procedure. Like, there is no other way than to exploit an animal's reproductive system to get dairy. There is no ethical dairy.
Okay,
just let me finish one more thing.
I disagree. No.
Oh, wait, okay. and another thing to bear in mind, okay, which is unlike the people use the argument for meat and say we've been eating it since the dawn of time. We've only been consuming dairy for like the past so many thousand years. So it isn't even been a long part of our kind of history in food. So literally there's zero argument as far as saying we needed it or anything like that. So as far as dairy being completely unethical, exploiting a reproductive system of an animal and ultimately killing them, I mean, what possible justification have we got for doing that?
I don't think that's necessitated by dairy that an animal needs to be raped.
I mean, can you explain to me how you are getting ethical dairy?
Well, this isn't a hypothetical. Sorry, that's really bad. I shouldn't be laughing. This is actually serious. All right, maybe I'll avoid dairy just because now that you've brought it up, it does make it like inconsistent with like my well-being or whatever to consume dairy, because now it like kind of makes me feel sad when I remember like the thing about it. So I'll probably avoid dairy more.
Man.
Yeah,
I've been to some dairy farms and investigated them, and they're really not good places, man. You're breeding an animal to become a reproductive machine to just milk them and take their babies away. Like there's no nice way to do that. Let's be fair.
Yeah. So my ideal like dairy world would be there's a cow and a bull, and you put them in the thing together until they like, you see some that like each other, and then eventually they get the moves on, I guess, and they reproduce with each other. And then at that point, as long as it's like in the interest of the baby to like let them be with their mother, you could do that for a period of time, right? Until and then when the calf isn't drinking, you would clean the cow, and then you would get the dairy after.
I mean, what I could say, you could have that. I mean, obviously that situation is probably a 1 in a million situation. Obviously, that's because it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, but that would
for the
that
dairy
would be
industry.
cool. Or we could just
no. But what I would say
actually no. Do you think I think we can clone dairy, probably, like the cells of dairy.
Oh yeah, we can totally do that. I mean, I've got no issue with cloning the foods if people want to do that and they're not hurting animals. Fair enough. crack on. The only thing I would say about that example you give there is, regardless, of all that, them breeding naturally or the calf staying around, that animal still can't consent to you taking their milk. It's not ours, and it can't tell you it's okay. So in that sense, that's what I would argue in that sense, that it cannot consent to you taking its milk.
I think there are mute and deaf people who could probably consent. Like, there are other ways to consent than verbalizing it, I think.
I mean,
like
really,
body language. Like if the cow becomes stressed or something, then you would back off. You would look for like a particularly docile cow that like wouldn't be reacting negatively.
I know, but you could also do horrific things to a disabled person who might not understand what's actually going on, and it not be ethical. And they might seem
I'm
like
actually
they can consent.
no. This is one of my more controversial views. I'm actually like really hard question marking like all the time the idea of exploitation. That sounds really stupid at surface level, but the idea that someone can like be having a harm done to them when they don't perceive the thing done to them as a harm. Obviously, there are examples like scamming, but in the case where someone has no problem with like they don't. I need to really clarify what I'm talking about.
No. The thing is, I understand what you're going to say, which is cool. I think what I want to do though, just to keep the flow of the conversation, obviously that we could go into it.
No, it's
not. All I'm trying to say is like even the whole idea of consent thing, as long as the cow isn't actually distressed, even if they don't verbalize it or whatever, maybe they don't understand what's happening. I don't think that if the cow isn't actually like suffering from it, or they don't feel distressed, that it really matters if they actually consented or whatever. Like, I don't think there's actually any harm being done. Like, who's the losing party?
Well, I mean,
are we going to teach cows about consent so that, like, I don't know about that.
But I mean, it's a bit of a slippery slope. It means we could kind of do some quite horrific things to disabled people because we can't tell whether they can consent.
No, I think all of those instances, or most of those instances, I can make really strong arguments for why you couldn't.
Yeah, but the same argument you could probably make towards the cow as well. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know what you're doing.
So.
But anyway, like, I don't want to kind of get stuck on that because this is not kind of the core of the situation. Obviously, we've kind of explained dairy. Okay. I wanted to talk about some of the other animal things as well. For example,
okay, but I would say that there is a hypothetical good dairy.
I mean, I would disagree. I mean, if you want to agree with that, we can. That's fine. I just don't want to get stuck on just talking about different terms and stuff. Basically, as far as we're concerned, though, that ethical dairy is pretty much non-existent. And it'd be easier just to go vegan and have the dairy-free options than trying to find this mythical farm.
Yeah, maybe.
So
maybe that's even a good alternative for now.
Yeah. So moving on to some of the other animals, for example. I mean, when we talk about animals like pigs, unfortunately, like pigs, around 90%, I think that is, are in factory farms. A lot of the mothers. Are you familiar with a farrowing crate?
Pardon?
Oh, do you know what a farrowing crate is?
Oh boy.
No, but if you bring it up, I might remember.
Okay, well, basically, when the mother pigs are pregnant, they're basically put into what is essentially a caged box, where they can't turn around. They can only move a few feet back or forward, and basically they'll have the litter there, and the piglets can suckle from the mother. Now, the idea of why they do this is because they say that it's safer for the piglets, so the piglets don't get crushed by the mother. But I've been to enough of these farms to see piglets be crushed by the mother, so it's utter bullshit. But I mean, these animals are literally in these cages for up to 6 weeks. Literally they can face forward, they cannot turn around. I mean, I would define that as torture, personally. I don't know if you would. I mean, if you put a human in a box where they couldn't turn around for 6 weeks, or a dog, I mean, what's your kind of views on that? Do you think that kind of fits into your definition of torture?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say most circumstances. Like, I can't obviously account for like every single farm, but I would say most of that would probably be like really, really hardline torture.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that is unfortunately standard practice. Most of the intensive pig farms I've been to use farrowing crates. In other countries, there's also what's known as sow stalls, which are basically the same, but it's only for when the pig is pregnant, and it is basically the same kind of thing, just without the piglets. They're just literally in a cage where they can't turn around. If you Google it, you'll see exactly what I mean. Or if you go and check on my Instagram, there's a video of me literally next to a mother in a farrowing crate, so you can see that it's legit, and there's me next to them to prove that I'm not kind of leading you on or anything. Other things that are
Yo, Chris,
completely.
But the little piglets, they have more roaming space than the mother, so it's okay.
No.
So it's just.
I knew I would
listen,
turn it.
dude.
See,
I'm
he's on
giving
my side now. Amazing.
I'm giving some more like space to the pigs and the farrowing crates. Like that's such a virtuous thing of me.
Yeah, some of the other things we should.
Yeah,
talk
but
about
farrowing crates don't need to exist in my system.
They don't need to exist, but they do. This is the thing. They do because.
Yeah, but not for me.
Wait, so all right,
hold
so
on,
I've just jumped in here. I've just jumped in here. So are we discussing ethical practices within the animal agriculture?
You're being evasive,
So I assume...
Magnus.
Yeah,
what
Magnus.
What were you saying?
Magnus, I'm just literally explaining some of the
invasive.
Yeah, he's in the middle.
How is he?
I'm asking
he's in the middle.
The conversation's about.
No, I don't give. No.
Maybe
hold on, everybody. Hold on. Let's just be clear. The conversation is about us living in a fantasy land.
What?
In this fantastic.
Okay, and your worldview is about living in a fantasy land. Do you think that really contributes to the conversation? You're literally just being deflationary for no reason.
You're saying I pay for things, but I don't support them. I pay for things, but they're not in my worldview.
That's actually a straw man.
Why
are you assuming that I support all of these things? Come on.
It's actually
Let's just let Chris continue. Let's just let Chris continue. He was having a conversation with the other guy, and then Magnus is like all trying to, and then he's just all trying to jump in.
Chris is very nice, actually.
Cool.
Chris is a nice dude.
I try. Cool. Cheers, Magnus.
Yeah.
Let's just crack them on. I mean, I guess basically what I'm trying to say is that there's so many practices that are standard within animal agriculture, which I'm sure that if I went through them one by one, a vast majority of them, you're going to turn around and say, you know what, I don't actually agree with that. That's not good. And the one thing that I would suggest is that I know a lot of people, they try and go to say, well, I'm only going to eat free range and I'm going to only do this and that. The reality is that is actually harder to do than just to eat vegan. I mean, you go to any restaurant and you ask what farm did your meat come from? Chances are they're not going to have a clue. Or they might know the name of the farm, but they've never visited. They never actually checked it out. But the vegan menu, you kind of know what you're getting. You kind of know that no animals were involved in that.
Dude, that's
so
like
I
a
think,
level 3.
Or
yeah. So I think.
Or how about this?
So I think. Sorry, let me just continue a second. So I think if you are concerned about animal ethics in your way of you not wanting to support these things, just from a purely practical point of view, it's actually easier to eat vegan than it is to try and be this ethical meat eater and try and know where all your meats come from and stuff, because the system is full of intensive farming. These apparent good farms, I'm putting them in brackets in quotes for all the vegans there, they're few and far between, and they're hard to find. And one thing that I will always bring up is that regardless how well these animals are kept, we have brought them into life purely to exploit them for their bodies. And realistically, there is no humane way to kill another living being that does not want to die. I mean, humane slaughter in itself is a complete oxymoron.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you there.
No.
Oh, hold on, Magnus. Humane slaughter, humane means to show compassion and benevolence. Can we really show compassion and benevolence when we're taking someone's life unwillingly? I mean, I would say no. I think that those words.
I feel like Chris could persuade Magnus.
I'll address you in a second. Wait, Magnus is a non-vegan?
Yeah,
no, I'm not a vegan.
Yeah. not vegan.
I think
That's
Chris and
I don't
Magnus
know
already
about that.
talked. Didn't you guys talk yesterday or something?
Yeah.
We
already
talked the other day.
Oh,
okay.
nice.
Yeah, Magnus is
by the way,
probably
Chris-
like an edgy nihilist. I don't like those type of people.
Oh boy, I'm a
What?
nihilist. Sadness.
Dude,
Oh,
Magnus,
guys,
Nick
What?
says he.
Or sorry, I'm a moral anti-realist. Sorry.
I would consider Magnus to be unethical, probably.
Oh, I was just going to
Why?
say, guys, can I say before we go?
Okay, I want to focus on Chris.
Yeah.
Chris.
I just want to.
Well, hang on. I just want to ask why you think I'm unethical.
Wait, guys, Magnus. Can we appreciate that at the moment it's 3:20 in the morning for me, and I kind of want to go to bed soon. So, if we
fair enough.
Yeah, nobody take sneak jabs at Magnus. Just have the conversation and then.
Yeah. Let's just carry on with the conversation. We're having a good conversation there. But yeah. I mean, what did you want to? Oh, I've just spoke for a little bit there. Did you want to come back to any of that?
What was it? Sorry, don't repeat it. I just want to think for a second.
Yeah, no worries.
I know. How about this? I think that from a practical perspective, it makes more sense for me on occasions in which I go out instead of buying a meat burrito because I don't know if it's farm free range or whatever, and it probably makes me less comfortable, so it would be inconsistent with like my values. I could just get the vegan burrito, but I could also buy free range meat, and then I'd just be more responsible at restaurants.
Yeah, but this is the thing, right? I've been to free range farms. I've actually been to the biggest organic chicken farm in California, and the first thing I saw was a pile of dead birds. And I'm more than happy to provide you the photos for this as well. Also, free range.
That's not the farm I would go to.
No, but this is the thing. These are the standard things. And when you go to a restaurant, for example, you're not going to know these things.
We're not looking for standard. We're looking for exceptional.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're going to try and find exception. I mean, you can go out and you can find, you can go and hunt around the farms and you can go and inspect them yourself and all that kind of stuff and try and find the one that you think is the most ethical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would argue that none of them are, because in the end, like I said, you're breeding a being into existence purely to exploit them for their body, and there is no humane way to kill an animal, or kill another living being with compassion or kindness.
Maybe in the future I could like make my own farm, and then I don't think I will, but like in the best case scenario, I could monitor all of this stuff because I would be the one doing it. So like,
hold on. Actually,
if anything happens to the animal that I don't like,
I've got an important question for you. Though, okay, why, when actually going vegan would be the easier option, would you be making so much effort to go and do this? What is it specifically about eating meat that you feel so passionately that you have to find a way to continue doing it?
It tastes good.
It does taste good. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, which is why. Yeah, and I would probably. It would probably just be more. No, taste doesn't justify killing. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
taste does not justify exploitation and the death of a being. So if we've got a choice to not do that, why wouldn't you just take that anyway? If it's going to be easier to do, it's not going to affect another living being. And I don't know how much vegan food you've had. Obviously, we only just started talking, but I mean, vegan food doesn't taste like shit. Just so you know, like, some of the best food
I would probably just not. Maybe. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I basically, just to give you a bit of context about my kind of vegan journey. So I actually went vegetarian for 15 years, and I didn't go vegan because I thought it was going to be too difficult, and I basically thought that I'm going to live off of carrots or whatever. When I actually went vegan, it was like the biggest anticlimax ever, because I was like, oh my god, there's loads of foods, everything's flavored with plants in the first place. All the meat products are flavored by plants, and I've actually found
I've had raw meat, or not raw meat, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you can eat raw meat, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. Majority of the meat foods out there, especially if you go to a restaurant, it's all flavored with plants, herbs, and spices and whatnot. But what I'm saying is when I actually went vegan, if anything, it actually opened me up to an entire new world of foods and tastes that I hadn't really dived in and experimented with. And I would say, honestly, not just from me trying to push veganism, but I would say I eat better and more tasty food now than I ever have in the past, because it kind of made me have to look outside of the box. It made me go, well, this is, there's all the standard stuff that everyone's eating, but what other things can I eat? And, the world of flavors out there are all plant-based. So if it's only taste that's really holding you back, and you seem to be a compassionate guy, you seem to obviously care about what these animals are going through. I'm just wondering just what is holding you back from making that kind of leap? Because it seems like realistically it's the kind of path that you seem like it would work for you.
Yeah, I think meat just tastes good.
Yeah, I think that's something I think it's something you need to get over, though, isn't it? I think even you question that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you know that taste alone is not a good excuse for all this. I know you do, right?
Yeah.
I think
so
you really need to process that. I think you need to think about that a lot.
Or a little, and then go vegan.
Yeah, that was pretty painful, bro. So
no,
Chris,
I don't agree.
You're gonna be around
okay. My big objection
we're still
is
talking.
one.
What? Wait.
Sorry, carry on.
Magnus. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Who? Okay, Magnus was in the middle of saying something, and I think Chris, were you the last one talking?
I think he was asking whether I'm staying on after this. After this, I'm going to go to sleep, dude. I'm real tired.
No worries.
But yeah, carry on. Let's kind of sum up this combo we're having. So where we're at, you've obviously it's basically we've boiled it down to taste. You like the taste of it, and in yourself,
or not necessarily taste, but taste is like the aspect that makes it consistent with my goals to kill animals.
Okay. Well, I mean, is there anything else that goes along with that? So we've got taste there. I mean, what else? I mean, taste on its own is a bit of a shit argument. We could all agree with that. Come on.
But I would never use that argument to like, if there's an animal that's valuable, then I would never use the taste argument to kill it.
But at this very moment,
using taste would never result in an.
No, but I'm saying that at the moment you're using that argument, because even if you go for the free-range cow, for example, that results in the death of that cow. So you've picked your taste buds over the life of the animal. So you're actually using the taste as an argument at the moment, because that's the only argument we've got on the tables. Which is why I'm wondering if there's anything outside of that besides taste, because it seems like maybe there's something else. I don't know.
I mean, aren't pigs like in cows? Let me think.
Who's like static is that? Holy shit!
Sorry, is that my AC?
No.
Yeah, you got some shitty static going on too.
I'll try to rejoin like last.
Like I'm being ear-raped.
I'll rejoin.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, man. So
I'll
can I ask Chris a quick question?
Or you can walk out.
Oh, he's back in.
Outside or something.
He's back in.
You can go outside, by the way, or something like this, and it might nullify that issue.
He's already gone. What's up, Magnus?
Can I ask Chris a quick question? Are you debating Shadow Soon by any chance?
Hey, what's up?
Shadow Starshine, are you debating him soon by any chance? You mentioned you was debating a guy named Chris.
I haven't arranged any debates, but I'm happy to chat to him if he wants to chat.
I actually invited him on the stream. I sent him a link, and then he never showed up.
Oh, okay.
I'm just wondering if you were the Chris he was debating.
Nick said he's gonna kill Karnas tonight, and so far he's just put everyone to sleep.
Let's just wrap up this little chat we're having then, because I'm going to go to sleep soon.
I'm just kidding, Nick.
Need to sleep. But actually,
that's because probably the reason is because extending rights to animals isn't consistent with like my underlying beliefs, and as a compromise, I take the path of least pain, only because not because they deserve it, but because it makes me feel better.
Okay. Well, I mean, what I would say there is, even if you have doubts about the giving animals rights, from what you've actually,
I have no doubt.
From what you've
about not giving them rights.
Yeah. But I mean, from what you've expressed, you could still stop consuming them and still hold that belief.
Only if I disliked it, but I like it.
Yeah. So then again, we're going back
and I
to
don't
taste
think
again.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's that it's consistent with my underlying belief to not extend rights to them. Because
how do you justify those beliefs?
God.
What do you mean by that?
The thing is,
how do you justify those beliefs? Why would we go into a conversation about
guys.
how we ground?
Let Chris talk.
Hold on.
Chris is trying really hard to finish up. Let him go.
I'm ready to sleep soon.
I'm just
give me a break.
Go for it.
Okay. All I was going to say is, like, you don't necessarily need to argue for animal rights to be able to show them basic compassion. You know what I mean? Like,
but I don't think they deserve it.
You don't think they deserve it? But why wouldn't they? I mean, from what you've said, though, you clearly believe that animals have some value because you disagree with some of the acts that happen to them. So you...
Well, maybe some value, but that value would only exist in virtue of, like, it making me uncomfortable to look at slaughterhouse footage.
No, but we wouldn't. But
out of sight, out of mind. I would just optimize it to make me feel comfortable.
I know, but you seem like you've kind of backtracked on what you've been saying, because when we were talking about, like, the dairy stuff, for example, you were kind of like, yeah, actually, this stuff don't sound too good. Maybe I should stop, look at not eating dairy. And everyone have been saying the other things.
Maybe dairy, because
you also agreed that
dairy
the farrowing crates with the pigs and you've other things. So you don't need to believe in a whole animal rights. You don't need to believe in the entire concept of giving animals rights. I mean, we can debate, some of the problematic things that could come from that, to just be able to show other living beings basic compassion. And, and you're talking about pain reduction there. Like, surely not eating them is the better option
but it's
of reducing that.
It's not because they deserve it, though. It's literally only in virtue of the value that they get. They possess no value. It's just an attachment. Like, it's an extension of what I think about them, that they even have this level of rights to not nuke all of them.
Hold on. Because
it's literally
you just said they have nil value.
I'm not back. I just want to explain. I want to explain. This sounds really weird. I need to get my points across.
It does
really
sound
important.
weird.
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. You sound like you've backtracked a lot, and you're now kind of contradicting some
no,
of the things that you said previously.
Explain.
Yeah.
The things like dairy. The thing is, this is my underlying principle. Things get rights when it's consistent with, like, my preferences to give them rights. So, even the case, like, with humans, no human that I don't have a preference to give rights, I wouldn't say they have any rights. Rapists, for example, I don't have a preference to give them rights. Children who are innocent, I have the preference to give them rights, etc., etc., etc.
Okay.
And I would say that most animals, I wouldn't consider, it's not within my preferences to give them rights, so they wouldn't have rights. But in the case of things like dairy, they might have some amount of rights, and I might avoid dairy in virtue of it making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but why would it make you feel
uncomfortable? But the moment I get over that, I don't
think they've got any value.
Just because it looks weird. It's just an emotional response.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, how do you have an emotional response to dairy, but you don't have an emotional response to a mother pig in a farrowing crate that can't turn around for 6 weeks and watches their babies die in front of them?
Yeah, you would just, like, process them in a more humane way.
Yeah, and like I said, like, in the easier option than actually,
or in a way that makes me comfortable. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I forgot that for like a half a second.
No, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, what I would kind of say to you is, like, you just seem to be, your argument seems to be taste, though, and
never.
Hold on,
I wouldn't use that.
I was adding another bit, and also just, like, preference, though. Like, you're like, oh, preference, rapists, don't care about them. Babies, care about them. Animals, don't care about them. But they're like, there's no real reason not to care about the animals. They haven't done anything to you. They're just doing their thing and having their experience. So just leave them alone.
I mean, Beyonce doesn't have a preference. Like, Beyonce hasn't done anything to me. I can still have a preference on Beyonce, right?
I know, but you wouldn't go and start holocausting Beyonce, would you? Would you put Beyonce?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't Holocaust Beyonce.
Would you put Beyonce in a farrowing crate? That's the question of the night.
I forget which one Beyonce is. I think I don't remember what she looks like actually.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say to some.
I don't know why I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. I need to.
I'm just going to wrap this up because I'm going to need to go to sleep. But all I'm going to say man, is from talking to you, I feel you have kind of backtracked on some of the stuff you said. You kind of contradicted yourself a little bit. But what I would say, man, is that the most people, okay, the reason that they have kind of an issue with veganism and stuff is because they just never tried it. Just give it a go, man. You'll see how easy it is, and you'll go, "Hey, this is actually all right. This is pretty easy." It kind of helps animals out as well. What?
You know what else is easy? Just reading the print, or taking a nice drive and finding a farm that I like.
Okay,
and then I get my meat, eggs, dairy from there.
Let's go to a restaurant and see who. Hold on a second. Let's go to a restaurant and find who can order off the menu easier with that in mind. Because I can just pick off the vegan menu. You're going to have to literally grill.
Oh, I might use the vegan menu at a restaurant too. It depends on my mood. If I were really thinking about it on that day, maybe I would avoid it. Maybe I would get a vegan burrito.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Picking the vegan option at all times is actually going to be easier because you always know that there wasn't an animal involved in that decision. Where free range.
No, the thing is, I don't need to make
a free range farm. A free range farm does not mean that the farm is ethical because you do not know how that farm operates. Even if you visit a farm,
and in some circumstances, an unethical farm can be consistent with my preferences. It really depends on the amount of introspection that I've done on that day.
I mean,
I'm
not going to lie. It does seem like you're just trying to come up with any excuse to try to justify it now.
Nope, this has been my position from the very beginning. Whatever's consistent with my preferences will allow me to make assessments of their value from that.
Oh, hold on, go for it. I'll take.
Yeah, sorry. I joined a party a bit late, and I apologize. I just noticed that your stream's been going for about 4 hours now, and it's kind of too bad. But I mean, like, too bad for me because I was kind of interested in having a conversation here. So, just real quick. So like, I'm an avid hunter. I'm a meat eater.
Gross, actually gross.
Okay, great.
Man. High five. I'm a hunter as well.
No, I was looking at my screen. It had nothing to do with
it. And the reason why I'm asking is, what's your thoughts on let's say ethical hunters, or people who actually go out and they. Are you talking to me, or are you talking to? I'm asking Chris a question.
I was talking to a character. I was talking to a character in my game.
Okay. Yeah. Do you mind
muting? Can you mute yourself for a second, mate?
Oh,
yeah.
Just
hold mute on for a sec. Yeah, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, I just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts would be on more of like an ethical hunter, like somebody who legitimately, puts the effort and time into going out to hunting a specific type of animal, depending upon the feedback from the wildlife officers in that particular region. They say, this year we have an abundance of male elk or male moose, between the ages of 5 and 8, and we kind of go in and hunt from more of an ethical standpoint to help maintain a balance within that ecosystem or that environment. So what's your thoughts on that aspect of things, as opposed to factory farming or potential farming that doesn't have any ethical standards?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I think that as far as ethicalness, on the scale of ethicalness, I wouldn't go as far personally to say it's ethical. I'm sure you'll understand. But I would say that compared to buying from a factory farm, obviously that animal has a higher degree of well-being. It gets to live its life before you kill it, kind of thing. My main argument against that, obviously, when we have alternative foods available, I think that the killing of another living being isn't ethical, even if we consider them overpopulated. I mean, let's be fair, humans are probably the most invasive species on the planet. We wouldn't justify killing other humans for that. But I guess one of the biggest arguments I'd say is that overall it's something that only a small amount of people can achieve. As far as scaling that out to actually do on a full scale, it's not physically possible to do. I mean, if everyone, I'm sure you'll agree, if everyone started hunting tomorrow, the wild populations of animals would be wiped out in no time at all. So I do believe that moving to a plant-based diet is something that can work to be sustainable for everyone in the long term. And I do recognize that right now, crop agriculture is not perfect. I mean, we do still have monocropping and stuff like that, which obviously can result in a lot of deaths and a lot of pesticide use and stuff like that. But it's also worth kind of bearing in mind that, the vegans aren't running agriculture currently either. These are still being run by the same people that always have. And, those kind of issues are things that we also want to eliminate. And there are things such as veganic farming, vertical farming, hydroponics, and all these other advancements in crop farming, which I think ultimately will be a more ethical thing for us all to move to. It will obviously allow us to, grow foods more locally as well. Zero pesticide use, less land use. I mean, the benefits are quite high, and I obviously believe that there will be other things beyond that. So my stance on it is yes, I agree that it is more ethical than the standard factory farming, totally. But I don't believe it's ethical because we're still taking an animal's life when we have an alternative available. And I do think that realistically, we should all work towards a system that is going to be sustainable for everybody. And I believe that plant agriculture is that direction to go. Does that make sense? Yeah.
May I ask a follow-up question?
It makes sense. I just kind of want to ask the questions, just so I understand, just so we can create like a terms of reference, just so I understand.
Yeah, sure.
How just you're defining things. So, what's your definition of?
Oh, sorry, I've just got to say, I've got to go to sleep fairly soon. I'm in the UK, so it's 20 to 4 a.m. at the moment. So I'll try and answer a few more questions though for you because.
No worries, man. I understand. Like I say. Yeah, I just kind of want to know like what your definition of like morals versus ethical, or sorry, like moral versus ethical. Like what's your definition between those two? Because I can't use them interchangeably.
Okay, right. So, so my definitions of ethical and moral, I guess in a sense they are. Right. I guess they are almost the same, aren't they? Because I consider. From my morals, I consider something ethical. So I guess as much as it seems like I'm interchanging them, I guess they are one and the same. I consider it ethical from my moral framework. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I would just want because I mean, like for me, like morality is more something that's like a personal and normative, so that's more subjective to the individual, and then whereas ethics is more the standards of what's good or bad. That's based upon like a community or social setting, right? So when you say things like things aren't ethical, then those ethics represent. Sorry, go ahead.
Magnus and Nick are both losing their mind when you start talking about.
Yeah, I'm just screaming about Hegel and more realism in the background here.
I know.
Morals aren't subjective, damn you.
Yeah, just so you're aware, like out of everyone in here, like everyone, I mean, Logan's not so much, but especially Nick and Magnus, they're very much, and I'm guessing yourself, you're very much into the kind of the philosophical, argumentation of this. I come from a very, a personal argument. I can argue the philosophy side, but it's not something that I delve massively into. I more do it on my I run an animal rights organization. I don't know if you picked up that earlier. So I see these animals and I empathize with these animals, and I basically stand up for them in the way that I would like to have been. I would like someone to stand up for me if I was in their position, basically.
Right. And Chris, I just wanted to say, thank you for your conversation and the platform to even have this discussion. And even though I'm a meat eater and I am a hunter, I do truly.
This is Logan's channel, so it's down to him. So.
Okay.
Big up, Logan.
Sorry, yeah, but I do respect you, and I do respect everyone else on the panel. It's just I just like to have an open dialogue and some conversation around these ideas. And I mean, it's not an us versus them thing for me. I just legitimately like to have a conversation just to kind of see where everyone's coming from and about kind of how I fit into things, because I do consider myself, like a hunter, and I do hunt hunt animals, and I do fill my freezer full of meat, and that's like what I sustain myself and my family with.
I actually agree. I think that this kind of dialogue is actually really important. I think that if we're ever going to get anywhere, the opposing sides need to have a civil dialogue and work out what we can do.
Absolutely.
Moving forward. Actually, what I was going to say is, it would be great to have a chat with you in a broader sense, a later date if you like. So I'll put my Twitter in the chat if you like, and drop me a message and we can sort out a chat another time. That'd be really interesting.
Sure.
Cool.
May I ask Survival?
Magnus, did you just want to ask one question before I leave? Because I got to go, but did you have one?
Oh, no. It'll take too long. You go to sleep, man. Like, you deserve it, clearly.
Okay, no worries. Well, thanks, Logan, for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and thanks for coming on too, Survival. I don't know if I've ever seen you.
Chris.
Before.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, yeah, no, guys, I will catch up with you all soon. Survival. I'll put my Twitter in the chat for you now. So, drop me a message.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris.
Great. All right, have a good night, everyone.
Why are there two Nicks?
Cheers.
All right.